I would say too, like something for your listeners they might be interested in is it's not hard to find these homes. I think what's great about this asset class right now is what you're really looking for is you're looking for a larger home.
So the big question is this: how do real estate investors who don't have a ton of free time, don't have access to off-market deals, and didn't start life on third base, how do we conservatively grow our real estate business to support our families, finally leave the corporate rat race, and build a legacy? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answers. I'm Ed Matthews, and this is Real Estate Underground.
Greetings and salutations, Real Estate Undergrounders. It is Ed Matthews with the Real Estate Underground. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really grateful for you making us a part of your day. With me today is Sam Wegert, and Sam has a lot going on, but we're going to talk about one really interesting segment of his set of businesses. I'm going to let him tell the story. So first, welcome to the show, Sam, and I can't wait to talk about Life Door.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on, Ed. I'm super excited to be on. And I love the name of the show, by the way. I didn't tell you that before we got on, but the Real Estate Undergrounders is a cool name. There's always cool new asset classes coming up in real estate, and I know we're going to talk about one of those today, and I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. You and I speak the same language because this is a multifamily play. So I'm going to understand the words coming out of your mouth, and so will our audience. But it's a fascinating play. I'm going to let you tell the story, and then I'm going to tell you about my friend Deirdre. So for those folks who haven't found you online yet or don't know you already, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are and about your company?
Yeah, what we're going to focus on today in this episode is, you mentioned multifamily. So this is an asset class that's new, up and coming. It's not that people haven't been sharing houses for a long time, because they have been for decades, for as long as humans have existed. But the way to do it in a scalable way that investors can get cash flow from is new, and that's called co-living. So we're going to talk today about co-living. And I believe this asset class is where Airbnb was in 2011, 2012, when it was just up and coming, and people were having this reaction to Airbnb, if you remember. Oh, wait, what is that again? How do people not destroy homes? So there's some nuances to it that I know we're going to discuss in this show, but really I describe it to people as this is multifamily income, but on a single family asset. So you get single family debt, which is longer fixed debt, a lot of times better terms, and single family prices. And I'm excited to dive into that and chat about that today.
So my friend Deirdre Verbo does something similar, except with senior living, right? So
Yes.
She is tremendously successful. He has bought beautiful homes in wonderful neighborhoods. The cost of senior healthcare and senior living, assisted living, is astronomically. We're East Coast guys. Just living, forget senior assisted living, is extremely expensive here on the East Coast and elsewhere as also. But it's to the point where good, hardworking people can't afford to put a roof over their head in a town that they want to send their kids to school. So let's talk about your mission, and let's talk about how you execute.
Yeah, the mission behind co-living. I'm all into co-living because it creates cash flow, but I would say there's a huge mission element to this asset class, and it can help solve affordable housing. It can help solve, we call it workforce housing, I think is the more technical term, because it's for working professionals that couldn't afford. Just think about everybody that you go through your day. Think about everybody that makes between $15 and like $25 an hour. So we're going to talk about everybody that works at Walmart that serves you, the people that you go to the convenience store and you buy from them. Think about the tens of thousands of employees that every major airport has, between the service workers and the people that put baggage on your, like they're making between 10 and 25, 10 and $30 an hour after taxes. That is just not enough to afford a studio apartment in a good area plus live.
Right.
And so there's a huge growing percentage of the population, especially in major cities, that are looking for something cheaper than a studio. But a studio is normally the cheapest thing on the market. So what's cheaper than a studio is a room. And so in essence, if someone can rent a room that has all utilities included, so they pay one price, the rent doesn't fluctuate, then that can help solve this issue of affordable and workforce housing. And it's not just me saying that. The U.S. Department for Housing and Urban Development, otherwise known as HUD, has come out. They put out a notice that said, hey, we believe co-living can solve affordable housing in America. Now, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. They didn't say it in quite that explicit terms, but they believe co-living can help solve affordable housing in America. And they now allow housing choice vouchers to be used for rooms, not just apartments or houses or whatever. So that's a really cool development that kind of is the HUD stamp of approval on co-living. I think about anybody who decides that they want to be an investor of co-living homes, because in essence, what we are doing, Ed, is by doing co-living, we are inventing a new price point that did not previously exist Studio is normally the cheapest thing in any city. And we are now putting that on the market in a clean, quiet, safe place for people to live that is 50 to 75% of what a studio apartment would go for. So we're undercutting the entire market, having the cheapest thing and doing it in a professional way that's professionally managed, that's done really cool. So it's not like a boarding home. It's not like a rooming home. A lot of people think, oh, Sam, what you're doing is rooming home. We're doing something where if I could have your listeners, if your listeners are note takers, I encourage them to jot this sentence down. The room is becoming the new apartment. Yep. And that is how Europe thinks about co-living, by the way. Like so many people in Europe and so many people in other countries live in this manner. It's only becoming necessary in the United States because of inflation, because of rising cost of housing and living, everything going up. That's a little bit about the mission behind it. It's cash flow, of course. Yeah, we can double, we can triple, we can quadruple the cash flow we get from a normal place, but it is also affordable housing and workforce housing.
Fascinating. And it's also similar to medical professional housing, right? I know
that's right.
I've got a handful of friends that buy houses, they'll fix them up and they will rent them out to traveling nurses or traveling doctors.
Yes.
Because obviously that's a big challenge in that space as well. And a little bit different in that, they're paying, those residents are paying through a stipend that they get. So the money is different, right? It's a lot more actually. But the fact is that the concept here is solving a major problem. I live in Connecticut. I believe you live in North Carolina. We have a major workman's housing issue in Connecticut. We're tens of thousands of units behind schedule. And I know that's a problem all across the country.
Yeah, those are the niche you mentioned two really cool niches, by the way. You mentioned the kind of senior assisted living or residential assisted living, I think they call it. And then you mentioned the
medical professionals.
Thank you. The medical professionals. Drew a blank there for a second. Those are all, in my mind, those are all like niches within the niche of co-living because they, in essence, rent out rooms to individuals. And so there's all kinds of these little niches.
Yep.
I focus on my company. What I think will fill your investment, what will fill your co-living house the fastest is definitely marketing to the broad, like working professionals. And other niches that are in there are like you mentioned, so veterans. Veterans is another one. Some of my students are creating homes and they only let veterans stay in those homes. It's a home for nursing professionals. You mentioned sober living is another one. That's the same, similar concept. You're renting out rooms, but it's to a specific niche. Seniors in general, not necessarily people that need assisted living, but just like 55 plus, we're seeing that take off because a lot of these people are on some sort of fixed income. Could have been an old pension or a social security. And they're like, the cost is going up. I don't mind making this sacrifice. I don't mind living with other people, but I want my own private room, my own private space. So we see a lot of that, like 55 plus happening. So I love the way you're thinking about it. Those are all little niches within the overall co-living niche that all can work. I'm just more focused on the broad category of anybody who fits into needing a cheaper place to live.
Here's the kicker. And I'm going to validate this with you because it occurred to me before we hit the record button, something that I have done in the past. And I'm curious if it's applicable here. I think it is. I flip houses as well, right? And so the one kind of negative of flipping houses is taxes, right? You sell a house, you own it for 6 months, you sell it, and you got to pay capital gains because it's short-term and it's short-term capital gains. So ouch, it hurts. However, if you take that house and you rent it and you hold it for a period of time, talk to your financial advisors, you can then, when you go to sell that house 1 to 5, 10, 15 years from now, you can 1031 exchange that money out and put it into something else, a like kind of investment. I'm curious if you had any thoughts about that.
Yeah, we do a lot of 1031 exchanges whenever I go to sell a house for sure, if that's what you're specifically asking about. I haven't sold a lot of properties until about 2.5 years ago when I started selling off. My wife and I owned 12 Airbnbs in the Asheville area. I saw the writing on the wall when it came to Airbnbs. I said, okay, if we hit inflation, that's going to mean people have less disposable income. So vacations are going to become, and I am grateful that I was kind of thinking ahead because I really did feel like I got ahead of the game. Like I sold a couple of our properties, like some big, nice properties at what I would consider like the peak. And I would not be able to get that today, even if I sold it a year later, 2 years later, because Asheville is just, the market's kind of steady.
Yeah.
But yeah, all those properties, I would not pay taxes on the income by 1031 exchanging it into more co-living properties, which is what I'm all in on because I truly believe the next 10 years is going to be one that's focused on affordable housing. I just don't see any way around the United States doesn't have to put a huge amount of focus. Would you agree with that? I know you're building some affordable housing too.
I 100% agree with that. It is a monumentally large problem that very few people are talking about. And it is beyond critical because The fact is that in 2008, not only did that whole financial crisis wipe out a whole bunch of people who were homeowners, it also wiped out the general contractor class. It took out about 50%, that's 50 folks, percent of the general contractors who were building new housing every year, and they never came back. So one of the major reasons we're behind is because all those GCs stopped building houses. And that's a huge part of why housing has continued to get more and more expensive, both rental properties and single family residential ownership type scenarios where we're just not building enough. So the supply is way down and the demand hasn't changed. It's continuing to grow. People keep making babies. People keep graduating from college and don't live with mom and dad. And people keep immigrating into this country. None of it's stopping. It's all continuing. In fact, it's all growing. That means there are not enough roofs for the heads of all the people walking around in this country. And so hats off to you. You are solving a major problem.
And so on that note, like what every city is trying to do right now is increase density in the city. A great example of this is Charlotte. Charlotte just came out with and said you could build a duplex, triplex, quadplex on any previously single family lot in the city of Charlotte, minus like certain zones that they X out. But what they're trying to do is increase density. They also slashed parking requirements for a bunch of multifamily. Charlotte and all major cities are like, okay, we've got to build more density and we've got to somehow bring the cost per unit down as well. So that's what they're trying to do, right? What we do as co-living investors, we go into a single family home, we increase density, right? We make it from this would be only be a normal, this could serve one family, now can serve 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 8 people can share this home. And we're doing that without any cost to the government, without any subsidies. We're providing a cheaper option in a nicer area, increasing density. So it is really this win-win. Politicians are getting on board with this because they're realizing like, wait a second, this solves an issue in my city or state. No subsidies and no government money to build this stuff. How is that not a win? Great example of this is the governor of Colorado. A lot of cities and towns will have these restrictions. They'll say you can only allow up to 4 unrelated people to live in a home or something crazy like that. Meaning I could live there with 45 of my cousins, 16 of my aunts and uncles.
Like, that was the question. Find cousin.
Exactly. How far back are we going in the family tree?
At some point, it's all of our family trees verge.
Exactly. Dude, it's so crazy to think about some of the old zoning laws that come out. Like in Atlanta, there's this one county, up to 5 unrelated, unlimited number of related, and an unlimited number of domestic servants. So you can just imagine what time period that was written in. And a lot of these rules and laws just haven't been updated.
Yeah.
But my point in sharing this is I have a whole thing on how I believe that's unconstitutional. There's definitely some strong parties out there that are fighting like, hey, you can't regulate this one. But the state of Colorado, the governor of Colorado just came out. This was back in July of last year. So I guess it's been about a year now. And he said, I'm making it illegal for any local jurisdiction to regulate the number of people in any home. So he just literally said, if 15 adults want to get together and they're adults and they want to share a house together, why is that our business? They're consenting adults. They get to share a house together. That's on them. And so that was a huge win. And you're seeing states like this, like Oregon did something similar. Washington did something similar where they're just like, hey, we get it. Co-living can help. We're removing any barriers. Now we have to get a little more creative in some of these states. We're seeing kind of the gates open as politicians start to understand what we're trying to do.
Yeah. And I hear you on those laws because like here in my general area, New England, a lot of municipalities will have similar regulations and laws, and it's fighting Airbnbs and it's fighting college kids living together. Because in Rhode Island, for instance, near University of Rhode Island, Narragansett, which is a beach town, beautiful beach town, is 40, 50, 60,000 people now in August. In 3 months, it will be a ghost town because a huge portion of the properties are beach homes. And so what those folks did was they would rent out their houses to University of Rhode Island kids. And so the kids would come in and do something similar, a co-living situation where they're living in a 6-bedroom house and none of them are related. And so the problem was then the neighbors that did remain didn't like the fact that they were living next to a college kid house and for obvious reasons. So that's why towns like Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island have passed similar laws to what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I'm not an attorney, but I'm pretty sure they're unconstitutional.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Want to flip your first house but stuck at square one? Flipper Camp is your guide. In just one weekend, you'll walk away with the exact step-by-step plan, tools, and confidence to flip a house profitably without quitting your job. Seats are limited, and Founders pricing ends soon. Join the movement of future flippers today at flippercamp.com.
I think there's like a big distinction too, Ed, between, okay, these laws were originally designed. A lot of them were originally designed to keep out college housing, like fraternity houses, prostitution houses, and undocumented immigrant houses. That was the original kind of intent a lot of times behind these. And a lot of them were colleges, like you said. But what we do doesn't really fall in those boxes. We're not college housing. Out of the 450 tenants we have here in Charlotte that I either own or manage, we have maybe 4, 5 college kids. Like out of all of that, they're all working professionals. So it's just, we're so different than that. And we're professionally managed, professionally set up. And obviously we're vetting these people. We're doing full FBI level background checks on everybody. And it's like they're moving into the house as if that room is their new apartment. So the laws and the rules, frankly, are just outdated.
It's just unintended consequences of the things they were trying to solve. They may have solved, but now as our society has evolved and we're experiencing additional challenges, affordable housing being a big one, they're realizing that those old laws don't apply to the society we live in today.
That's right. 100%, man. 100%. Yep. I would say too, like something for your listeners they might be interested in is it's not hard to find these homes. I think what's great about this asset class right now is what you're really looking for is you're looking for a larger home. You're looking for a home that's 2 things. One, large. We look at nothing less than 2,000 square feet. If it's 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, that's like even better because I can get more bedrooms out of that. I'm looking for a home that's large. And I'm also looking for a home, and I'm going to use a term here, we call it it's boxy, meaning it's not that open concept floor plan that everybody still desires today. Yeah. So we're looking for one with a lot of walls and maybe built in the 80s or the 90s or early 2000s, where this boxy, the living room was separate, the dining room was separate, the kitchen was a separate room, because that makes it easier for us to convert those rooms to extra bedrooms. And so what's great about this model is that those homes don't fly off the shelves anywhere. People see them as a little not desirable. We get to take homes that are older, larger, and maybe not super desirable, and we get to turn them into something. I can't tell you how many co-living homes I've bought that have been on the market for 100 days, 120 days, 150 days, couldn't move. And then I come in and I look at it. I'm like, oh, actually, it's perfect for co-living because look, it's got all these little rooms and it's broken up really weird. Terrible for a single family, but perfect for co-living. And that's the homes we get to snag off the market, which is really great.
Which is awesome. Less competition when you're acquiring is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the other thing. Like as the investor, I get a cheaper deal because I get to buy an undesirable product and I get to give my low ball off.
Right on. Your approach. How do you approach a deal? You find a 2,000 square foot ranch, right? That's all boxed up, no great room. It's a kitchen, living room, dining room, the usual setup. How do you approach that project and what are you doing to make this a co-living property?
It's really a simple process. I'll outline it from a very high level view. First, we're looking for a few things in the home. I've already mentioned some of those. Is it boxy? The more bathrooms it has, the better, because I always want to keep a 3-to-1 bedroom to bathroom ratio, meaning I never have more than 3 people sharing one bathroom. Perfect world, 2 people sharing one bathroom. Or in a perfect world, 1 person only having everybody having a private bath would be perfect. But obviously that's adding a lot of bathrooms. So you've got those things I look for. I'm also going to look for non-HOA. I'm going to look for kind of a B- or B+ a neighborhood, something that kind of fits blue collar neighborhood where people aren't going to be super pissed off if there's an extra car in the parking lot or someone's parking on the street. I'm looking for, that's the other thing I look for is, does this home have enough parking to support the number of people that I'm having? If it doesn't, then obviously I'm going to move on to a different home.
Sure.
Something built in the 80s or the 90s, something after built after the 1970s. So I kind of have the updated electrical and plumbing that the codes updated around those years. And so I'm looking for those things. And then when we go in, we just basically say 2,000 square foot or bigger. And then from that point, if it checks all those boxes, we buy it. And then we just convert every square inch of the space, except for the kitchen and 1 small common area, to a bedroom. So you might say, well, are you serious? What about the dining room? Yep, that becomes a bedroom. What about the living room? What if there's a second living room downstairs? What if there's a full basement? I'm taking that 3 or 4 rooms. The way I think about it is if we're in an affordability housing crisis, and tonight in America, by the way, there are 600,000 people. Think of how many stadiums 600,000 people would fill up. That's how many homeless people will be in America tonight. And so if we have a crisis to that level, you better bet I'm using unused space for a bedroom because we need it. And so there's a huge demand, huge need. But I am going to leave the kitchen, obviously, because that's a shared area. And I'm going to leave a common area because that's a shared area as well, where people can eat. I'll put some desks in there for people to do co-working. And that'll be a cool kind of community space. Every square inch, though, becomes either a bedroom or a bathroom. What about a garage, Sam? Yeah, garage too. We always convert garages either into 2 rooms, 2 bedrooms, or we're going to convert it into the common space so that I can use more space in the house that's already obviously better heated and cooled for rooms. So that's in essence what I do. Now, a lot of times, if I have a 2,500 or 3,000 square feet, that means I can get 9 or 10 rooms out of it. And to some people, that might sound crazy. Like 10 people, how do they not kill each other? There's a lot of nuances on the management side of things that we have to think. You have to keep this thing clean. You've got to keep it quiet. You have to keep it safe. But that's a general overview of how we make this happen.
Okay. So you mentioned management because that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask. Yeah. How do you smash 6, 8, 10 people who don't know each other into the same house where they're sharing a common area? How do you manage that?
I would say the answer to that question is the number one reason everybody first sees co-living for the cash flows. Whoa, I can make $1,000, $2,000 net on a single family house that would normally negative cash flow. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So for example, one of my 8-bedroom homes recently, when I did the rent appraisal, they said, hey, it'll probably rent for $2,200. We ended up renting out for $8,500. And it's just, that was a 10-bedroom house. So we're, now granted, we pay utilities, we have different management costs, more maintenance. There's definitely more to put into there. But just that is insane. That's what people see on the front end. But let me pull back the curtain and show you the back end. The back end it's hard. It's hard to manage these things. There is a lot of systems. I've been doing this for a decade and a half, believe it or not. There's a lot of little tweaks and systems and things that have to be in place. And I'll share some of those. Like right now, there's 3 things you have to do to manage a co-living property with 8 or 9 or 10 people in it successfully. 1, it has to be clean. And if it's not consistently clean, people won't want to stay there. So what does that mean? That means that people have to contribute to the cleaning. It means you have to have cameras in the common area to ensure people do their dishes, like simple things like do their dishes after they put them in. There has to be some accountability around that. There have to be some fines if they don't do it. And there's professional cleaners that come in twice a month to clean the common areas. So there's some little systems and rules and things they have to sign off on that just make this asset class nuanced. Everybody would be doing it if it was super easy, but there's some codes you have to crack. So that's clean. Quiet is the next thing. You have to have some quiet hours. People have to go to headphones after a certain hour in the night. Otherwise, people who work first shift or second shift are just going to go crazy. Yeah. So you have to have certain noise restrictions, similar to like an Airbnb, where you might have quiet hours after 10 or something. Like you have to have that. And then the third thing is you have to make it safe. If it's not safe, people won't stay there. So you have to have rules like you can't have weapons in the house, right? You have to be able to enforce those. You have to be able to kick people out if they break a house rule. You have to have cameras on the front. We put cameras in the common area of these homes. We have to be able to have those accountability things. We have to have individual door locks on all the doors so they feel, okay, this is my little private space that I can lock and I can get in and out. And then obviously just how you vet your members is just so crucial. Huge. Are you doing background checks? Are you ensuring they've had some experience with shared living before? Not that we wouldn't accept someone who's brand new, but setting the correct expectations from the beginning is definitely the number one thing that sets them up for success in the back end.
Right on. And you mentioned something about if they break a rule, they lose their membership. Does that fall under eviction laws, or is there a different, because I've been paying attention to your language, you don't call them tenants or residents, you call them members. So walk me through the nuance that you're dancing.
Yeah, there is a fine line, and I'll just pull back there. I don't mind being totally transparent.
Thank you.
I used to use leases, and I now exclusively use something called a membership agreement. It's similar to think of like you join a fraternity club and you have a membership with them, or you join a country club and you have a membership with them and you pay dues. That's basically how this works. And so what that allows me to do is if you set it up correctly, you are able to step outside of normal tenant-landlord relationship. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not giving your listeners legal advice that this is how, I'm just sharing what we do. That does allow you to use private security to kick someone out, and I've done this before, to remove if they don't exit when you terminate their membership. So you can do that. Now, here's what we found. We're a little bit at scale. Now, we're not at, my community would probably have 2,500 of these co-living doors. In my community, my wife and I own 250 or so, and then we manage like a few other hundreds. Depending on the state, we found it you can also go through the normal eviction process. So in North Carolina, 95% of the time, we're going to go through the normal eviction process. There might be some situations where we forcibly remove someone from the room, and we have the ability to do that with the legal agreements. It's not hard. It's actually a very easy process. We're a very landlord-friendly state. It costs a couple $100. So, okay, we're going to just go through that. But you do have the ability to do that. That's why we call them members. We have this membership agreement. The membership agreement also helps us in some of these jurisdictions that have these restrictions. Technically, the way that this works is I'm only leasing my house. I'm leasing my house to one other company, and that company then has hundreds of membership agreements. If someone were to say, Sam, how many leases do you have on your house? The answer would be, I have one lease on my house, and that's it.
Now, who holds that lease, though?
Another company that I also maybe own, and that company is a membership company, and it's the one leasing the house on behalf of all these members.
Got it.
A few documents that are needed to set this up. And we pay lawyers lots of money to get creative in this space. But that's what's
Creative.
great about America. We can get creative, right? That's literally how new stuff is formed in America all the time, is lawyers get together and go, what if we did this way and this way? And we still follow the raw law, but we're creative.
Yeah. And let's all keep in mind, you're solving a major problem for folks that are in a whole lot of trouble if you don't exist, right?
That's
okay. So talk to me about, do you take outside investors, or is this done in-house, or how does that work? Are you joint ventures?
Yeah, I've seen it done lots of ways, and I can speak to all those ways because I coach on all those ways. But if someone asks me, hey, Sam, what do you do? I tell them I'm all in on co-living, and I build, I teach, and I manage. So we are in the process of developing our first 2 co-living buildings that are duplexes that are built for this model. So a lot of bedrooms, a lot of bathrooms. We manage, meaning we have a management company, but unfortunately right now I only manage for my students just because the management is so heavy. And then I teach. And so I run the largest masterminding course that teaches people to get into this in a way where they don't lose a ton of money and they know the nuances going into it and they do it profitably from the very beginning. There's a recipe to follow. So that's what I do. And then of course my wife and I buy these all the time. I don't take outside investors right now. We just used our own capital, and my wife was my biggest investor when she first got in. She watched me do it for a few years and then said, I've got some money, let's buy some more property. So we just always kept it a little bit in-house that way. But I have some students that are doing some syndications. I have some students that are raising capital. I have seen people do it every single way right now. What's great about this model, maybe as a little comparison to multifamily, is you can actually keep this in-house, meaning a single family home, you can get a 10% down vacation loan. You can move into it and hack it for a minute and do house hacking and put only 5% down. I mean, this is great for people who like, I can keep this in and that can go up in value. That's how we've done it. And I like it for that reason. It's easy to get into. It's a lower barrier to entry than, say, buying a multifamily deal.
Absolutely. No, I get it. But it's interesting because I'm thinking, like, you're talking about some of the loan products that are out there. I'm thinking VA loans, right? Where I think 3% down payment, you can live there. You can convert that house into a co-living house and then move out and do another VA loan for your next property. It's a nice way to grow your own portfolio as you go along. I'm sure students do that.
It gets even better than that. You can, if you want, hack other people's loans. So here's how some of my students have done it, and I've been so impressed with them. You can go to someone and say, hey, you have a job, and you can get a primary residence loan, which is 3% down, or a VA loan sometimes is 0% down. You can go to, and you can say, look, I'll give you free rent in a home for a year, but I'd like to use that loan. And so they would move in, and you would deed the, I mean, there's some nuances from the legal title side of things of this, but that can be worked out. There are some strategies for that. But in essence, you can hack someone else's loan because you're only allowed one a year. But I can go to, and I've gone to my, like I have a bunch of siblings. So I'll be like, I'll tell my siblings like, hey, I'll give you 10% of this house plus, or I'll just pay them. I'll be like, I'll give you 10 grand, but you've got to move into this home and then the home's going to be mine, but you get free rent for a year. And so there's some fun strategies.
Right. There's always
into your first one or two. But here's what's great about this strategy. Let's say you get a home, and it's not uncommon for one of these homes. $1,000 a month net is the bottom line. We won't even look at it unless it spits out of 1,000. And then I'd say there's some crazy examples I could give you of one home, 14-bedroom home in Houston, doing $5,000 a month net. But that's very rare. They put a lot down. But 1 to 3. So let's take an average person
in thousands of dollars,
$1,000 to $3,000 a month in net income. That's the range of what we're seeing in different cities around the United States. So what I'm saying is you don't need 100 if you're a normal American and you need $6,000 a month, which is $72,000 a year. And that covers a lot of your basic expenses. That's 2 or 3 homes, not the first ones you maybe see. You find, you research, you look, say no to a bunch. But like I'm saying, that's the power of this strategy if applied and done correctly. So it's possible. Thank you. That's why I love it.
It's like I said before we started recording, this is a situation, a problem that I'm grateful that you and other people that are doing what you do are solving. I'm also really grateful that you're teaching other people how to do it, because that's the fastest way to get to scale and solve this problem in total. And you've mentioned a couple of times, and I'm going to make you talk about it, is your school. So tell me about the training you provide and how does that work?
So we run a program that is 2 aspects. It's a course and it's a mastermind. And what that means is there's an initial course to get you from 0 co-living homes. Even if you've done a bunch of real estate before, obviously this asset, just like industrial is different than multifamily, is different than single family. Co-living is different from all of those. So there's a course that gets you from 0 co-living homes to 1 co-living home. And it's a step-by-step guide that walks you through to get to 1. After that, 2 is easier, 3 is easier, 4 is easier. Everyone gets easier after that. And then we have an ongoing mastermind that just supports you. So that's calls, live call. It's basically everything you need to do co-living successfully and profitably. And to scale, yes. Yeah, we've got some scaling programs as well. One of my students recently joined our program less than a year ago. And him and his partner, now granted, he found a partner in our program, and he just texted me the other day and said, we're at 180 units. And I was like, less than a year, co-living units. And I was like, dude, that is insane. Granted, he came in with a decent amount of capital. He had sold some stuff, so he had a chunk of change that he was ready to go. But that's what's possible in our program if you apply yourself. And so I love doing it. I've got a bunch of coaches that help me out with it. I'm really passionate about it. We're always improving it and making it better, and just super excited for that.
Awesome. Congratulations.
If someone's interested, we do give a free resource. If someone wants, we do a 5-day challenge, which is a deep dive into this strategy. It's completely free. We don't charge a dime for it. There's an offer on the end, but it's not a hard pitch at all. It's just, hey, if you guys want to continue, here it is. It's scaleyourrealestate.com. So if anybody's interested, scaleyourrealestate.com. They can just go there and get on our next one. I do one a month. They're live, so I'm there interacting with you guys and connecting. And it's a fun way to learn about co-living.
Cool. Awesome. Let's get into the final 5. I appreciate, and I've learned a lot in this 37-minute masterclass that you've provided. So thank you. But I want to know more about you individually. You wake up on Monday morning and the mortgage is paid, the kids are taken care of, college is handled, no car payments, all the things that a husband and wife need to do, or a couple need to do in order to be good, right? That's all taken care of. And yet you still get out of bed, and I suspect you're that guy. And yet you get out of bed on Monday morning and go headfirst diving right back into the office to continue to build your business and help your students and all that. I call that purpose. And what gets you out of bed? What's your...
Yeah, man, I think it's an interesting question, and I might give a non-traditional answer to it because this has been something I've been diving into my life recently. I'm not going to lie. I've been in a season of life where I've been asking myself that same question on like, what is my purpose? Why am I here? What do I really want to do? And I started working when I was 13 years old. I started working 60, 70 hour weeks when I was 13 years old. So I'm in a place where, and I'm 34 now. So from 13 to 34, I'm like, I've been going ham, crazy. Didn't go to college, hard work. And so I'm in this place where I'm like kind of waking up and sticking my head above the clouds and being like, wait, there's a whole new world out here. But I would say what's driven me in the past, and I'm just gonna be really honest, is necessity. And I don't necessarily mean financial necessity. And I think there's some value to what I'm going to say for people who are listening, because I don't think I'd be here today if there weren't a lot of other people that relied on me. For example, I would love to quit right now. Like, I'd literally love to turn it down. I fantasized about it for the last 2 years. I told my wife I just want to go to Mexico, this little town of Mexico, Missouri, that I love, and I want to go. I have people that rely on me and they keep me going. And so I do it because there are people who need me, care, and that I care about enough that I have to keep going. And that's what gets me up, is those people. And I think that's valuable, because I think if anybody wants to get somewhere in life, it is not going to be, you need external resources to push you. Like, we will only do so much just for ourselves. Purpose. I'd love to tell you I have some big purpose to solve affordable housing. And sometimes I do think we will actually completely solve affordable housing with this method. And that's fun. And that does get me up in the morning. But if I had to give you the real answer, man, I would say it's taking care of the people that rely on me, taking care of the people that have paid me, taking care of the people that have entrusted me with their lives, their financial future. And I need to show up for them. I need to show up for my wife and my dog, who's laying next to me, a little pissed off.
So thank you for that. I agree with you on multiple levels there. With regard to mentorship, you've mentioned that people have helped you along the way. And so I'm curious about the best advice you ever got and who gave it to you.
Man, I'll give you a piece of advice that may seem out there, but it's something I've just been preaching to my team. I'm a big Tony Robbins guy, and Tony Robbins is all about raising your standards. But one of my mentors pulled me aside one time and he said, Sam, stop trying to be Tony Robbins. You are killing yourself. You are trying to be excellent all the time. He was like, you're trying to be too good all the time. I was like, what the heck do you mean, man? He goes, I need you to lower your standard. I was like, what the heck are you talking about? That's not me. I'm Tony Robbins. I'm raise your standard. He goes, I'm going to teach you something that will be very valuable. He said, lower your standard, but raise the consistency with which you hit your standard. And you haven't, in essence, raised your standard. And he goes, consistently good always outperforms occasionally great. And he goes, Sam, you're trying so hard. You're showing up occasionally great. And you just need to be consistently good. And it was a juxtaposition to my entire life, which is like Tony Robbins, go explode, explode. And I've just been preaching this to my team because, for example, my team built out this whole flow for member concerns that we get from these members. I was like, guys, ain't nobody gonna do it. It's too big, it's too beefy, it's too this. I said, we need them to watch one video, not 20 videos. And they're like, oh, that's too little. I'm like, but if we made one video mandatory,
at least
so we lower the standard, we raise the consistency with which we hit the standard, and we've in essence raised our standard. And that's frankly, what I'm trying to do in my life, because I'm the type of guy that wants to make everything perfect, everything amazing, everything great. It's like, you can't do it. It's not possible. It's not human.
It actually helped me. What is professionally a mistake or a decision you'd love to have back? What did you do about it? My list is very long.
I'll give two because one's very relevant. One's like a bigger picture. I like to move forward fast. So sometimes when these wholesalers come to me with deals, I'll buy homes sight unseen. And I've done that a lot in my career, actually, but I will never buy another house sight unseen just because there is a difference between Google Earth and Google Maps and the video that the guy sends me and seeing it in person. So I just bought a house recently. I was just like, why did I buy this house? I already paid cash for the entire house as a wholesale dealer. So I was like, and then I did this and I was about to buy a second house sight unseen because I just trusted my team. And I was like, I'm going to just quickly zip out there and see it. I did. I immediately canceled the contract. I was like, this house, it's different. I didn't like it. That's like a quick little lesson that I think even for experienced investors is important. And then the second lesson I would say mistake is there's a great book that I recommend everybody read. It's called Who Moved My Cheese?
Yep.
And it is a book about when markets change, people hold on to what they know and they need to update. And so for me, I was in the martial arts industry. I built a chain of martial arts schools for 15 years. I hung on to it because it was certain. And it literally took an act of God. Like, dude, my brother, who was like my right-hand guy in that business, literally had to go to jail, because get on drugs and do all this crazy stuff that happened. And a friend had to literally come down and be like, you must sell this business for me to then transition to full-time real estate. And I just feel like I held on to it about 5 years too long.
Yeah.
And in life, things move. Asset classes change. What was good 2 years ago is not good. There are just things that adjust. And I wish people would be like, okay, I'm moving on to the next thing. And sometimes that's just what has to happen. And so if anybody struggles with that, like I did, Who Moved My Cheese? A great book to be like, the cheese has moved. Rewards and the spoils are not where they used to be.
Right.
We got to move on to something else.
Right on. And so you mentioned a book, so let's talk about that. How do you sharpen the saw, so to speak? What are you reading these days? Or if you don't read, how do you take in information and who are you paying attention to these days?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. Tony Robbins for sure. And just in terms of resources and books, I just recently read a book called $100 Million Leads. I haven't finished it yet, but $100 Million Offers. Those are two great ones. Who else am I paying attention to? I'm always in a mastermind. I'm always in a group. I pay attention to Pace Morby's group and kind of what he's doing with the sub-2 community, because I have a community of my own and I want it to be amazing and badass. I went through a season of my life where I listened to every single person that I possibly could. And I told you before, I quit a mastermind I'd been in for 14 years, not because I thought it was bad, but because I just needed to hear my own voice. I needed to hear like what Sam wanted and thinks. This season of my life right now is actually less about reading. I'm journaling for an hour to 2 hours a day.
Hey, that's
journaling
cool.
about my relationship. And it's been really, if no one has ever, and if you've never journaled, and I know I'm going to get some haters for saying this, but if you've never journaled to ChatGPT, you should. So like, just know that it could come up in a court case. They can subpoena this stuff. So be careful what you tell it or delete it. I love old school too, Ed. I've got a notebook in front of me, but ChatGPT has been fed millions and millions of transcripts from actual counselors and coaches and all this stuff. So it does have a good format. It knows coaching. And so, yeah, you can just go to ChatGPT and be like, I want you to be a coach. I want you to be a counselor. I want you to reflect this back to me. What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Talk about anything. And keep in mind, I'm a guy who hired a Tony Robbins coach at age 14 or 15. So I've been in the coaching world for a long time. And some of the things that ChatGPT will spit back to me and be like, hey, I think you should think about this and this. I'm like, it's deep and it is good. Surprisingly, look over my shoulder is good. And it's instant. I don't have to get on a call. I can just feel like, here's an emotion I'm feeling today. Like I'm feeling this and this, and I really don't want to do this and that. And it'll be like, no, you need to stick to your commitment because of this and this. And here's what you could do. But if you do, this is who you would become. And this, and I'm like, done, got it. I'm going to do. It's amazing. So I've been journaling a lot to it. A lot of my friends have too, and we're just experienced really great results. So I know some people have some weirdness about AI, but I would highly recommend it. So that's my 2 cents.
No, you're talking to somebody who, like within the last week, established a board of advisors on my ChatGPT account project that's set up. And basically I said, we've got Crush Street Academy and we're trying to launch this. And I need Russell Brunson, Alex Hormozy, Ann Hadley, Frank Kern to walk me through a launch strategy so that we can add the most value and all the things we want to accomplish. And it gave me
that's awesome.
And I'm going back to it now. Hey, this is what I'm seeing in the market. This didn't work. How should we react? How should we handle this? And boom, more information.
Yeah.
Ooh, that worked. Okay, cool. That's resonating. I now have a world-class board of advisors living under the umbrella of ChatGPT. So I'm right there with you on that one, brother.
That's amazing, dude. I love it.
Let's talk about success, because I'm really interested to hear how you answer this. In your own life, and I know you're in a specific season right now, how do you today define success?
Yeah. I wish I had good, nice, canned answers for this, but I really don't. How do I define success? It's definitely changed. I'll share something a little vulnerable that I just realized yesterday. It might be a little too early to share this, but I'd say the number one reason I chased money growing up was because I wanted to be loved by the people around me. And I just somehow in my head, I got connected. I was like, oh, if I could impress my friends, I was part of this friend group that was like, never really fully accepted me. And if I could impress my parents, I could impress people, I would get more attention and love, things I didn't think I got when I was a kid.
Yep.
By having a ton of money. And I accomplished the goal by all worldly measurements, was the youngest person to join a millionaire group, built my company to multi-millions. And so all this was like good check marks. But I think what happened is I recently woke up and was like, dang, actually having more money means you need to have more conflict. Like fire people and hire people. Like I went the wrong way if I'm looking for like love and acceptance in my life, right? And so one of the things that I would say, how I define success now, it's slowly shifting for me. Definitely used to be all by money measurement terms, even recently. Like even if you'd asked me this a year ago, I've been like, did I hit my net worth goal? Did I hit my net income goal? It's all net income, net worth. That's all I would measure. I don't care about gross. I don't care how much money you're making. I care how much money you're taking home. That's all I care about. But recently it's just shifted a little bit more. I've had some health concerns. My sister just passed unexpectedly very recently, kind of rocked me to my core. Man, she was 36 and she left a 5-year-old kid behind and her husband. It was just so sad. I'm still reeling from it, to be totally honest. And I think I just woke up and was like, am I like having fun? I have more money in the bank account than I've ever had in my entire life. Is that who I want to be? I recently spent some time in Colombia, like the country of Colombia. And in Colombia, they don't care how much money you make. They care about social media following. It's a different culture. And just being around different cultures makes you realize it's actually a very American thing. It's a very specifically American thing to think I'm competing against you. I'm better than you in money. I have more success than you. Not everybody thinks that way. Most cultures actually don't think that way. I say all that to say, I think just like enjoyment of my life, spending time with people that I love and that I care about has definitely started to infiltrate my version of success more than it ever has. And I'm 34, so I think it's a natural tendency of men, maybe young men especially, to go through this like significance phase, and then they're like, oh wait, is that all there is? And I'm in that, is that all there is phase. And I'm sure I could learn a lot from you in that as well. But that's my journey right now, man.
That's awesome. That revelation for me hit about 31, I think. So you're right on track.
Yes.
Wow, I've been working at this for so long to accomplish this, and I just accomplished this. Is that all there is? It'll happen multiple times in your life. I'm in my mid-50s. It's happened at least twice since then. And that's a good thing. That's growth.
What's the number one piece of advice you have for someone in that season?
Give yourself some grace.
My turn.
Give yourself some grace. You are on a path, and that path is your own. Don't compare it to anybody else. And if you're not where you thought you would be, that's okay. You can't do anything about yesterday. The only thing you can affect is right now and tomorrow. Give yourself some grace and be really as present as you possibly can. I relived them even. And one of the things that did to me was it sabotaged things that I was working on because I was so fixated on things I got right, things I got wrong. And what happened was I'm sitting at a dining room table with my 2 daughters and my wife, and they're having a great conversation. And I'm still thinking about the mistake I made. And I'm not hearing any of it. And learning very late in life to give myself a little bit of grace has been revolutionary. And I'm talking in the last couple of years.
That's brilliant. Thank you. I received that, and that's very timely. Thank you.
So Sam, I've really enjoyed this conversation. When you're not talking about co-living and helping other people achieve their dreams, what do you like to do for...
Say that last question one more time.
When you're not saving the world from not enough affordable housing and helping other people achieve their dreams, what do you like to do for fun?
Yeah, I'm learning a lot about fun, but I love anything outdoors, man, anything in nature. So hiking, biking, camping, traveling, being on the water, a boat, just like anything with my friends and my family. Usually outdoor stuff is my most pleasurable place, is kind of my home. Skiing, I have a torn ACL right now, so I'm not doing much of skiing and it's killing me, but I'm working on that. So that's my go-to.
Yeah, fortunately it's August, so you got a little bit of time to kill. And if people want to learn more about you or your companies, What's the best way to get in touch?
Yeah, man, the best way I would just say is going to that website that I gave you, www.scaleyourrealestate.com, if someone's interested to learn more about co-living. Or they can just follow me on Instagram at Sam Wegert, Wegert, and connect and follow with me there.
Awesome. Sam, thank you so much for your time today. I am blown away by you and your business. Congratulations and continued success. I wish you nothing but the best.
Thank you, Ed. Same to you, brother. Thanks for the opportunity to be on. I really appreciate it.
This has been the Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.
This has been the Real Estate Underground. Don't forget to subscribe. It helps us grow. Until next time, Undergrounders, remember your real estate journey begins with a simple step forward. Now get to it. Bye for now.